deen, that is their duty to God. Many people understand this as meaning that the act of marrying completes half their duty towards God, like they can finally sigh a sigh of relief. Phew, that's that done, right? No, wrong. Just the simple act of marrying, if done for the wrong reasons, is unlikely to get you any closer to God. After all, Prophet Muhammad, made it very clear it is always the spirit behind the act which counts more than the act itself. This is how important it is to find the right marriage partner. Yet two people who have come to know God and who call on their beloved and find their reflection and echo in the other are still a rare occurrence in this world. According to Islam, Allah has already written the provision for every soul on this earth, including whom we marry. Yet marriage is a decision that many people take without an accurate knowledge of God or themselves. For the majority of us, our marriages are unions of convenience. Oftentimes we exercise our free will too hastily and enter into relationships to fill a lack inside. For the other person to complete us, to aid our personal growth, to make us happy, to start a family, to support us financially, etc. We choose our partners based on physical attraction, their financial status or family background, their ability to bear our children, their intelligence, and so on. You get the gist. Your true counterpart is rarely your chosen wife or husband, since these arrangements are made by you and represent a physical union. DB 51A 1959 IE 937160 AD 03682 D87.7. So, what if you are already married but find that the person whom God intended for you, your counterpart, is still out there? It is not uncommon at all for twin flames to be already married upon meeting. When this happens, many find themselves challenged to the core by the fact that God's undeniable call to divine service could come through loving another person, especially if one does not happen to be married to that person. Society tells us that the person we marry is the one we are supposed to love exclusively, and even if through our spiritual and emotional growth we find God and realize we are stuck in an incompatible marriage, we still persist with it because this is what our societal, religious and cultural conditioning tells us to do. It takes a lot of courage to let ourselves feel, let alone pursue, the deep love that our true counterpart awakens within us, and to forsake what we have been taught to perceive as morally wrong and contrary to God's command in favor of what our heart tells us is right, divine and true. Let's be honest though, how many of us have sincerely selected our partners based their ability to remind us of God and His love? Are our husbands and wives the beacons of light God intended them to be, pointing us towards the eternal life? The thing is, real love brings us closer to God. It is an act of worship which connects us with ourselves and others at soul level. Since it comes from spirit, it also creates a living connection to God and to a greater purpose. It is unconditional love which exists by its own right, through a flow of divine love connecting the two lovers no matter that the circumstances or distance between them. Beloved, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. 1 John 4:7. Such love could never be wrong. The Quran says, God made their hearts familiar, Quran 8:63, through the light of oneness that yields spiritual love and familiarity in the heart. For love is the shadow of oneness, familiarity the shadow of love, and balance the shadow of familiarity. Since God is one, the closer the heart is to oneness, the stronger the power of love is within it. Surely this explains why the twin flame love is so strong and at times overwhelming. They help bring us back to the wholeness that we are by strengthening our love towards ourselves and others. Their mere presence acts as a purifying fire where everything other than love is burned away by the closeness to God. Now I am not an advocate of anyone leaving their spouse at first sight of the twin flame, and I certainly do not condone extramarital affairs. But beyond all the questions and moral dilemmas that arise, is the truth of what real love is. It is a movement towards unity, towards oneness. It is a homebound move. Therefore, we have to ask ourselves, is love putting the blinders on and persisting with a profoundly incompatible marriage? Or is it trusting the small voice inside our hearts which tells us to follow the call home, no matter what this may look like on the outside? There is another way to look at this dilemma. Let's say that you are married and meet your twin flame. You know it is God calling you into union with this person, but you do not feel you should leave your marriage. After all, your partner hasn't done anything wrong, or maybe they have, but either way you don't want to hurt them. Perhaps you hide away from your twin flame hoping she and the feelings for her will go away in time, or maybe you engage in an illicit affair with them behind your marriage partner's back. Somehow thinking that this is a better solution than leaving them, which it of course isn't. However, what if in such a situation, you saw your first loyalty as being towards God? What if in examining your heart you recognized that you had married this person before you had come to know and trust God? Surely then, you could admit that this marriage is not by divine mandate but by human choice and could begin to take the steps necessary to realign yourself with God's will. Marriage quote. In the Islamic tradition at least, there is no higher love between humans than the love which is for the sake of God. Love that exists for the simple reason that the person we love brings us closer to God and points us in His direction. The Quran states that on the Day of Judgment, it is those who love each other for the sake of God, meeting for His sake and parting for His sake, that will find shade. Our main consideration in selecting our partner therefore should always be how much love they inspire in us and how close to God they bring us. After all, it is by the amount of love in our hearts that we will be judged. Follow the last chapter.